The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, Four Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. Friday night special event tonight. We got Dave as usual down here in the tavern, and then we also got Tom, Big Nasty O'Connor, getting ready for his big fight happening at River Creek Casino 2 weeks tonight. Tom, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to have a nice little chat about your humble beginnings from the big town of Fort Macleod. We'll talk some your fight coming up at River Creek and Enoch, or Edmonton, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And then we'll talk a little bit of football. You're a Steelers fan, and we got some hard-hitting questions to wrap her all up. Tom, thank you very much for joining us tonight. When the last time I seen you, it was the hockey tournament in Fort Macleod, the tournament of the ages. I grabbed onto the back of your pants so I could back check because you were going down the ice. I held on to you and you tugged me down the ice. I thank you very much for that.
You were teammates?
Yeah.
No.
Enemies.
We're opposite teams. Opposite teams. I grabbed onto him because I knew he was in good shape, and I thought, geez, this guy I got to hitch on to.
It was a free lift, and don't worry, we weren't going very fast because I'm not a very fast skater.
No, it worked out quite well for me. I got a free lift, didn't cost me a penny. Tom, you got into this, I'm assuming, at a young age. You're 30 years old now. What got you into the MMA world? What got you into the fisticuffs and into things in the sports world?
Yeah, kind of just it really starts from just the love of sports, I think, is like the beginning of it all. Because in Macleod, I was never a fighter, I was a friendly guy, never would get into scraps really at all, be friends with everyone kind of thing. And just from playing sports and competing in hockey and rugby, that's where it all started, is just, playing rough sports and just running around like a maniac in the streets of Fort Macleod. They just put that kind of shell on you. And then when I was in university and not doing well, might I add, in university, it happens. So I was playing like beer league rugby, which is a great time and a lot of fun. And then after that, I just wanted something to compete in more. And so I started at Progressive Fighting Academy, which is where I train now. And just out of university, I just wanted something else. So I started doing kickboxing, and that's where it started. And my coach, 3 months in of 3 weeks into kickboxing, he's like, I got you a fight in 3 weeks. So about a month and a half, 2 months in, there was a fight scheduled. And I was like, you know what, if I'm doing it, I wanted to compete. I was missing that. I was enjoying the partying of rugby, but I was missing that, just, the competition aspect. And so I said, screw it, signed up. Geo Wilsonholm, all the Wilsonholms came down to Great Falls, Montana for fight number one, and all the family, the McNabs, the whole crew, pretty much, everyone we could get from Fort Macleod to fill Great Falls, got down to Great Falls. And then that was the first fight ever. And from that point, I was kind of hooked, it was the start, the beginning of the end there. Is once I got in the cage and felt the door lock, that it's one of the coolest things competition wise is fighting. There's no hiding in the cage. It's only truth is, did you put the work in or not? And some team sports, you see that, but you see the team pulls that out. The work has been put in, but certain players and stuff you can get away with. You can rely on people. The cages, you better have done your due diligence in training.
That's a great answer, Tom. And you led into some questions I actually had. Your sports as a kid was the normal, the hockey, and the rugby, like you said. So once you got exposed to, you answered that one question I had. You weren't likes to fight guy.
No.
But once you got into the martial arts, I think I've said it to Brent before, throughout history, the ancient Olympics, who's fastest, who's strongest, who's toughest. I think wrestling and fighting is the oldest sport. Who's toughest?
It is. It's before time. You know what I mean? It's like pancreas. Yeah. And that's the coolest thing about fighting. And you see kind of microcosms, or you see examples of this through all sports for sure. But you got your attributes to rely on. So you're fighting, the person might be faster than you. Well, you can't rely on speed. So maybe you rely on strength. Oh shit. The person's stronger than you. You can't rely on speed or strength. So you got to rely on tactics and being in the right place at the right time and being ahead of the game. And you see that, in all sports, is who's the playmaker, who's the sniper, which person is using their attributes to the best ability. And in fighting, it's like it's zoomed in on, right? Is you watch someone, that's one of the most exciting things is a big boxing fight or a big MMA fight that's coming up. Everybody's talking about it. Is, you got one side, you pick, in this example, you pick Diaz, well, you pick Khamzat Chimaev. And you guys you talk endlessly on who's better than this, but you don't know until the fight happens. You can't possibly know.
And you make that one mistake, even though you are the better fighter on every single thing. You make that one mistake, and all of a sudden you're tapping out or you're asleep.
It's over, just like that. Yeah, I love that Gracie saying of, the Gracie said, if you're a black belt, you get punched once, you're a brown belt. You get punched again, you're a purple belt. You get punched again, you know what I mean? Like every time. And that's the thing is, the kickboxer, who's going to win, the jiu-jitsu guy, what style is going to win that night. And it's just, so exciting. So that first fight, that like any people that I wasn't much of a fighter growing up, like I said, but I loved just the competitive aspect of sports and roughhousing. Like you said, it's the furthest thing that goes back. Watch dogs as puppy, all animals. We all roughhouse to learn how to move and play. And that's the first sport you ever really play,
I got a 12-year-old son, and he has buddies when you got a trampoline on the back. Guess what I see on that fucking trampoline?
Yeah, it's just a wrestling mat.
It's
not a
trampoline.
Yeah. It's a wrestling mat. Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah, like growing up in Fort McLeod, as I did, Tom, the only fights that happened were Saturday nights at the Queen's Hotel or at school in front of the bike racks kind of deal. So it was kind of a different thing. And the training wasn't a big thing. Like that kind of stuff didn't happen a bunch. When I was growing up, the only guy that was training a little bit, well, a lot of it, and he's a bit of an animal still to this day, is Trev Hardy. Trev was the guy, he was a Golden Gloves boxer the whole bit growing up, and then he got into the hard training and everything else, what he does, and been all across the world. Do you train with Trev at all?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you go back in my origin story, as it were, Trevor Hardy, Brad Wall, they're really the like, as it would be, they're the mentors and senseis in my life, right? So yeah, that's where it really took off. As I started at PFA, like I said, out of kickboxing, and just for fun, just for fitness and staying in shape. And then Brad started training me in Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. And I just, entering the space, that was me opening the door to that world. And so I started there, and then from there, Brad, of course, connected to Trevor, and Trevor with his lineage through all of Alberta and Canada as a martial artist and a trainer, and just a knowledge of sports and physiology like that. Once I connected with him, that was really the rocket booster that took off, is because he opened the gym doors to me, and it taught me everything, wanted me to train with him lots. And being from Fort McLeod, I say it took me under his wing per se. And so everything that is my style built to this day is from those two guys. And now, it's like a tree. It grows out and then it branches out. But the roots of everything that I have in martial arts is from Trevor Hardy and Brad Wall.
No, it's good to have a guy like that on your side. There was a time or two where Trev wasn't really on my side for some different indiscretions that may have happened a time or two. We had a few he always went. Actually, the funny
altercations
story.
There.
There was an altercation one time when this is a quick story. He asked me. He'll deny this to the day he dies. But we when I used to play hockey. This is the day back in the old third wave workout when it was on not just off Main Street in Fort McLeod there. And I was there pretending to work out. I was pretending to work out, and he needed a sparring partner. He just needed someone to throw punches at him. I said, Trev, I'm not doing this. He goes, no, I won't punch you, because if you would have punched me, would have killed me. So anyways, I threw some punches, and somehow, some way, I threw, and I was a goaltender, so I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And I threw a left, and I missed, and then a right, and I caught him right in the chin. And it must have been his instincts, because he just and he hit me so fucking hard, I thought I was going to die. Like, my lights went out, it was over, man. So it was a funny little situation.
It was just the response, eh?
Yeah, just instant response.
It's like, oh yeah.
No, it's no big deal. I thought I was going to die.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. Yeah, it probably wasn't even much that he hit me with, but it was a situation. Your first time it was
the sleep alarm and the wake up call. Hey.
Yeah, I thought I gotta go. Good thing there was no one around, because I was crying and everything else.
And you feel like you've done the hardest back workout you've ever had.
Yeah, it weren't good. The first time you got in the ring, you said down in Great Falls, Montana, right before you got in. I don't want to. Was there any sense of like, oh, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, there's about an overwhelming sense of that for the 2 weeks prior, right up to the time, like like what, and it's funny because I wasn't a fighter outside of,
Yeah.
sports and stuff, but in hockey and rugby are two of the sports outside of combat sports that fighting is part of the nature of it. So in that regard, I was like, I wasn't afraid of violence. I wasn't afraid of that intensity, that another intensity that comes of a fight. I was never afraid of that by any means. That was just kind of part of those sports. Hockey fights are completely natural, and rugby, clawing people with your cleats. There's people are walking off. If you look at a high school rugby game now, men or women's high school rugby game, you look at them and they come off and they look way worse than they've been through a fight.
Yeah.
You look at two fighters, you know what I mean? It's like, so from that regard I wasn't scared of that, but just, I was like, what the hell have I got myself into? What am I doing? I'm going in the cage. They're locking the door, what am I doing? And then once I got in there, and like you said, the feeling of the martial arts, the discipline aspect, and just that other level of risk reward that comes from fighting, where you're in there, it's, of course you want to win, but there's the risk side is so much higher too. Is injuries can happen in all sports, but they're trying to take your head off. The goal of the game we're playing is I kill you, you kill me. And whoever comes out of that is the victor. And so that means someone's got to lose. And so that side of things was like, how am I going to lose? Am I going to get head kicked, knocked out? What's going to happen? Like, what is this going to look like on the other side? And thinking, what are people thinking? And then as soon as the cage door locked, it was just like, it was almost
I'm
home,
here now. I got
it was
to go
awesome.
now.
I'm here now. And Great Falls is a special one because Fight Force would do it in the hotel there. I can't remember if it's the Best Western. I feel like it was the Best Western, but
I know. I know the place. There's a sports bar
and
around
it's a
back. I
double
know the
decker,
place.
right?
Yeah.
And there's a pool, but it has double decker rooms, and so there's a patio on the inside of the rooms, and so you could walk straight out of your hotel room onto the patio, watch the fights, go back into your hotel room with your friends and drink, watch the fights. So it had this raised element to it that felt like a gladiator ring. You know what I mean? Like it felt like you're looking up at people above and you're like pointing at them, and people are cheering, and it's all the lights are on you, and that zoomed in effect of. That's one aspect I love. If you watch some of my fights, like I like playing up the crowd. I like acting like a monkey, and bringing a.
Yeah, I noticed your entrance, how you kind of crouch down a little bit low and you crawl in there. Yeah, and it's funny. It's quite.
I like playing a bit of the role, playing that character. And that's the fun performer side of it for me. And although it is still a very serious thing, you don't want to waste too much energy on doing that. But I do it because I love it. So I'm gonna have the performance side of it, and coming from hockey and rugby, like who doesn't love a good celly, as long as it doesn't come from a very ego-driven side where it's too I don't like to be cocky in that regard. I like to be confident but not cocky. So I like to play up that role of being the monkey and having fun, but don't let it take away from the fact that there's two respectable martial artists in there to do a job, and we can't do our job without one another, kind of thing.